think your carry permit has got you covered. One wrong move under these new gun laws and you're looking at felony charges, even if you didn't pull the trigger. What's up, everyone? This is your boy Sully from Line 45, and today we're diving into the shady side of modern gun laws, where one honest mistake can cost you your rights and your freedom. Before anything else, let me do this quick plug. Hit the like and subscribe buttons, all the buttons that you can see below. Don't forget to leave a comment too. I know it feels like a hassle, but those things help my channel a lot. Now let's get back to the good stuff. Universal background checks confusion. I'll be honest, this one hit close to home. A couple of years back, I was helping a buddy sell an old Ruger 1022 in Colorado. Nothing shady, he just wanted to pass it along to his nephew, a straight-laced college kid with no criminal record. But when I mentioned it casually to another shooter at the range, he nearly choked on his coffee. You know that's a criminal offense if you don't go through an FFL, right? That was my wake-up call. Universal background checks sound harmless until you realize how easy it is to break the law without knowing it. Most gun owners assume if it's a private sale between two honest law-abiding people, it's nobody's business. That might fly in states like Texas or Montana, but cross into Washington, Oregon, New York, or New Jersey, and suddenly that same transaction could get you slapped with criminal charges. These states require every firearm transfer, including between friends, family, or even temporary loans, to go through a licensed dealer. No dealer or check counts as a misdemeanor or felony, depending on the state, and just like that, your right to own could be gone for good. And it's not just sales. Say you loan a buddy a pistol for a camping trip, or let someone hold onto your shotgun for safekeeping during a move. Some states see that as a transfer. In New Jersey, you could be facing a felony charge just for being generous. There's no leeway for good intentions. And no, the "but I didn't know" defense doesn't fly in court. What makes this law so dangerous is the patchwork of rules. Federal law doesn't mandate universal checks, but 22 states plus D.C. do. If you're driving across state lines with a gun in the trunk, you might be following the law in one state and breaking it in the next. That's not just confusing, it's a setup. Bottom line, it's a legal trap. Most of the folks getting hit with these charges aren't criminals. They're just shooters like you and me who didn't realize the rules changed when they crossed the border. And speaking of legal traps, let's get into something even scarier. Red flag laws. I've spent years around firearms, owning carrying training and helping others stay on the right side of the law. But I'll be real with you, red flag laws scare the hell out of me more than any other regulation on the books. Not because I've got anything to hide, but because they throw out the whole quote-unquote innocent until proven guilty thing we've built this country on. One bad breakup, one heated argument, or even a nosy neighbor with the wrong idea, and you could find yourself disarmed and looking at jail time. These laws, called extreme risk protection orders, have now spread across over 20 states, and they let police or courts take your guns away based solely on someone's claim that you're a threat. That's it. You don't get to defend yourself first. They don't need proof you committed a crime. Heck, you might not even know someone filed a petition until deputies are at your door with a seizure order. Here's where it gets dangerous. Once that order's in place, the clock starts ticking. You're expected to surrender every firearm you own. No delays, no exceptions. But say you're like most gun owners and have a couple of pieces tucked in a safe glove box, or maybe even off-site. If you forget one, or they think you're holding out, you could be facing felony charges for violating the court order. That's not just losing your guns. That's losing your rights, your clean record, and maybe your job. And this isn't just talk. In Maryland, a man was shot and killed during a red flag confiscation. In Colorado, a guy got charged for refusing to comply with the order, even though he claimed the allegations were false and politically motivated. I've read dozens of cases where gun owners had no history of violence, yet still ended up with a criminal record because they didn't navigate the red flag process just right. I'm all for keeping dangerous people from hurting themselves or others, But this system is way too easy to abuse. It punishes the accused before they ever get to speak. And it's got law-abiding shooters walking on eggshells. But it doesn't stop there. Here's a gun law that is even more personal. Storage laws. You'd think you'd be safe inside your own house, right? But here's the thing. How you store your gun inside your home can be the reason you end up in handcuffs. And we're not talking about reckless folks leaving rifles on the porch. We're talking about regular shooters or gun owners who mean well, but didn't check the fine print. In states like Massachusetts, New Jersey, and California, you can be charged with a crime just for how you store your firearm, even if nobody touches it. Let's say you keep your 9mm loaded in a drawer for quick access with no lock and no safe, just like a lot of us were taught to do for home defense. If a minor lives in the home, or could possibly access it, you're now looking at a criminal offense. In New Jersey, that could mean 18 months in prison and up to a $10,000 fine. Doesn't matter if the gun was used. Doesn't matter if nothing happened. The law is written to criminalize potential access. One guy I know out of Connecticut had his pistol in a locked glove box when he dropped his kid off at school. Parked outside but didn't bring it inside. That still counts as a violation of storage laws because under state law, that car becomes a gun-free zone. He didn't get a warning, he got charged. Even worse, some of these laws don't wait for something to go wrong. Cops show up at your house for a noise complaint. Do you see a shotgun in the closet with no lock? That's enough for an arrest in certain states. And let's be real, it's not about public safety anymore. It's about setting legal traps for gun owners who aren't up to date on the latest regulation of the month. So no, it's not about being careless. It's about how the rules are designed to make even safe gun owners fail. And it doesn't get any better from here. Magazine capacity limits. You'd be surprised how fast a standard mag can turn into a felony. I mean it. One moment you're at the range with your everyday Glock 19 and its 15-round mag. The next, you're in the back of a cruiser because you crossed into a state like New Jersey or California without swapping it out. These magazine capacity limits are some of the most absurd and misunderstood laws we've got in the gun world, and they're catching folks off guard every single day. The cap is usually 10 rounds, and in some states it doesn't matter how long you've owned the mag or how you use it. I've seen cases where people were charged just for having an unloaded mag in the same range bag as their pistol. Doesn't matter if it never left the case. In California, that's already considered illegal possession of a large capacity magazine, and you're looking at a misdemeanor or felony depending on the situation. And here's the worst part. There are states that ban not just possession, but constructive possession. That means if you've got a blocked or pinned mag that could be restored even with some tools and effort, the law still treats you like you're in possession of the full capacity version. Colorado and New York play that game, and I've watched more than a few good shooters get jammed up on technicalities. I had a buddy who traveled from Texas to Colorado with his AR and didn't realize his standard 30-round P-mags weren't compliant. He had no intent to break the law. He just didn't think twice. One traffic stop later and boom, confiscated mags, court summons, and a legal mess that cost him thousands. These mag laws don't stop crime. They just criminalize people like us for carrying what the manufacturer gave us out of the box. And you won't find any consistency either. What's legal in Arizona could put you in a cage in Maryland. But if you think that's ridiculous, wait until you see what qualifies as an assault weapon under some state bans. Your bone stock rifle might already be illegal, and you wouldn't even know it. Assault weapon bans. Have you ever looked at your rifle and thought, this thing could get me locked up just because of a grip or stock? Sounds insane, right? But that's exactly how bans on assault weapons work in places like California, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and now Illinois. These laws don't care about how your gun functions. They care about what it looks like. And the list of banned features is so broad, it's almost designed to trip up everyday shooters. I've seen rifles that shoot .22 LR with barely any recoil get flagged as assault weapons just because they had a collapsible stock and a flash hider. Doesn't matter that it's a rimfire plinker. You add a pistol grip and detachable mag, and now you're holding a legal headache. In California, if your AR-style rifle has a forward grip or an adjustable stock without a fixed mag, you're looking at a potential felony if it's not registered or neutered to fit their compliance checklist. A buddy of mine in Connecticut bought a perfectly legal Smith & Wesson M&P 15 before the law changed. He didn't register it in time, didn't even know the cutoff date had passed. Next thing you know, the state's treating him like a criminal over a few quote-unquote evil features that don't affect function one bit. And don't think you're safe just because you don't own an AR. AK variants, certain shotguns, and even some pistols fall under these bans purely based on cosmetic details. You might have something in your safe right now that's technically illegal and not even know it. That's the trap. These laws are a maze of features, not facts, and once you're in violation, the penalties are real. In New York, for example, possessing an unregistered assault weapon can get you hit with a Class D felony, the same class as some violent crimes. It's not about safety. It's about control through confusion. And in the wrong state, the wrong barrel, shroud, or grip could cost you your rights. Coming up next, let's get into transport laws. Because even if your gun is legal where you live, crossing the wrong state line could get you cuffed on the spot. Transport laws. I've driven through nearly every state with firearms in my vehicle, and let me tell you, gun transport laws are one of the fastest ways for a responsible gun owner to end up in a jail cell. The rules don't just vary from state to state. They flip completely depending on where your tires hit the road. And if you think telling the cop, "I followed federal law," is going to save you in places like New York or New Jersey, think again. I've had friends get jammed up just for doing everything by the book. One guy flew into LaGuardia with his pistol checked and locked in TSA-approved luggage, which is legal by federal standards. But the second he picked up his bag and baggage claim, he was arrested under New York's firearm possession laws. The same thing happened to a traveling nurse from Pennsylvania. She told an officer she had a licensed firearm in her car at a traffic stop in Jersey and ended up facing 10 years for unlawful possession. Even if your gun is unloaded, locked up, and in your trunk, like what Firearm Owners Protection Act recommends, that won't always protect you. States like Massachusetts, New Jersey, and California have been known to ignore federal protections if your transport violates state public safety laws. Here's the craziest part: just stopping for the night in a restrictive state can void your federal travel protections. If you veer off your direct route, say to grab a hotel or visit a buddy, you might no longer be covered under FOPA. So yeah, transporting a firearm legally is like navigating a legal minefield, and most folks have no clue they're stepping into it until they hear the cuffs click. So if you're hitting the road, do your homework, or you could lose more than just your weekend. Now let's get into something just as messy. Ghost gun and 80% kits. I remember when 80% kits were all the rage. Guys in my circle building Glocks and ARs in their garages, totally legal. No serial numbers, no paperwork. Back then, if you had the right tools and some know-how, it was just another weekend project. But now that same build can get you locked up. Ghost guns and 80% kits have gone from hobbyist territory to full-blown legal minefields. Here's the deal. Once the ATF changed the rules, in 2022 things got serious. They redefined what counts as a firearm. If your kit is readily convertible, meaning you can turn it into a functioning gun with common tools, it's now treated as a firearm under federal law. That means it needs a serial number and a background check, and it has to be bought through a licensed FFL. If not, you could be staring down federal charges for unlawful manufacturing or possession of an unserialized firearm. And it's not just a federal issue. States like California, New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut have outlawed ghost guns altogether. I've seen guys charged for just possessing an 80% lower, never even finished it. In some cases, having the jig and parts in the same room is enough for the state to say you intended to manufacture. That's called constructive possession, and prosecutors are leaning hard on it. I had a friend in Pennsylvania who ordered an 80% kit online. No big deal, right? But then the rules changed and a neighbor tipped off local authorities. They came knocking with a warrant, and even though he hadn't milled a thing yet, he was slapped with charges because the parts were too complete. His case is still tied up in court, and it's cost him thousands. So yeah, what used to be a fun legal DIY build is now a one-way ticket to a felony charge if you're not paying attention to every new twist in the law. And if you think that's bad, wait until you'll know the next one. Gun-free zones. I'll never forget the time I almost got nailed just for walking into a post office. I had my concealed carry piece on me, but I totally forgot it was in my waistband. I ran in to drop off a package. Nobody saw it and nothing happened. But when I walked out and saw that tiny no firearms sign by the door, my stomach sank. That could have been a federal offense just like that. Gun-free zones are one of the biggest gotchas in U.S. gun law. They're everywhere, and the rules around them are anything but consistent. Under the Gun-Free School Zones Act, it's illegal to carry a firearm within 1,000 feet of any K-12 school, even if you're just driving by. Unless you're licensed by the state you're in, your out-of-state concealed carry weapon doesn't count. That's a federal law with up to 5 years in prison as a penalty, and most carriers don't even know it exists. Then you get to state-level restrictions, and things get even messier. In New York, just walking into a posted private business with your gun, like a grocery store bar or coffee shop, can land you with a Class E felony. In Illinois, carrying into a post office, courthouse, or even a park, without realizing it can mean jail time, fines, and permanent loss of your carry rights. And yeah, intent doesn't matter. You don't have to pull the gun out. You don't even have to touch it. Just having it on you is enough. I've known guys who got popped for carrying into a hospital thinking they were good and left in cuffs. Others walked into schools to pick up their kids had guns locked in the car and still got charged because the car was within the school zone. That's how unforgiving these laws are. They don't just penalize bad actors, they punish honest carriers who make one mistake.